I will just say that when we talk about interrupting cycles of youth violence, that's really a shortcut for saying two things. Number one, we want to make sure that fewer kids and teens are being shot. And the good news is that's happening in Philadelphia. A lot of cities that have had gun violence go down have not had young people included in that trend. Here, the story's different. On the other hand, we're also concerned about youth perpetration and what causes kids and teens to pick up a gun and shoot it. Unfortunately, that number is up here. So what we're hoping to do tonight is to get behind the typical conversations and go deep and peel back the layers, to get at the why, and to end with a how do we stop this? Before we start, I just want to quickly set the tone a bit. I'm hoping to facilitate a safe conversation that features the voices of youth who are on the ground. Ijaz and Maisa, you're brave for being here and for opening up. And as we've discussed before, if you feel uncomfortable, you just tell me pass and we move on. We move on to another question. And the goal here really is that we feature their voices and that the adults who are in this room who are working on this issue can listen. So I'll start with some questions about witnessing and living through gun violence, move into what leads youth to become perpetrators, and end with a hopeful discussion on violence interruption. So, Maisa and Ijaz, how exactly has gun violence affected your lives? How does it affect your daily routine? Does it affect walking to school, your mental health? How does it show up for you? And what do you wish adults better understood?
Well, y'all know my name. My name is Ijaz Carter. Everybody know me as Skip or Skippy, Skippy. That's me. Gun violence has taken people away from me through either jail or through death. It messes with people's mental, physical, and it's very traumatic. And a lot of people don't know today. I feel like, me personally, I feel like everyone around the city, teens more, have PTSD, just don't know it. You know what I'm saying? We've seen a lot, we just desensitized to it. And I just feel like it keeps people stuck in a loop. If you ever been through it or experienced it firsthand, seen it, because that's all over the media, you feel me? So you can see that it's everywhere. Just messes with you mentally and physically, emotionally. It just hurt. I'm gonna keep it being like.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
All right. So my name is Maisa Young. And I feel like, just to piggyback off of what Ijaz said, I do agree that it affects everyone as a whole, even people who haven't, like, maybe lost a family member or people who haven't been shot themselves. I think, like he said, we're desensitized, and it's actually to a point now where, even, like, I can speak for myself. If I hear gunshots, I'm not, like, fazed, I'm not bothered. Or even, like, now with social media, we could literally watch a video of somebody being shot down to the ground and just be like, oh, dang, and keep going about our day. So I do think that there is some PTSD and that some people are affected, and I guess we normalize it. And with it being normalized, I think that more people feel like it's like, okay. Like, I feel like that's anything. If you normalize something, then more people start to feel like it's okay to do that thing, or it's a little more normal, or maybe Philly is known for that. So just, yeah.
Lacey, you mentioned desensitization, and that's interesting, particularly because I learned from our Afia Tucker's reporting that you actually used to work at a mortuary. So tell us a little bit about what you saw every day and what you learned in a really tangible and what I imagine is a gutting way about the impact of gun violence on Philly youth from working there.
So yes, I used to work at Khadijah Alderman's funeral home. So it's a big funeral home. We get a lot of business, right? So I feel like not only do we see a lot of gun violence come in the funeral home, and for starters, when you get a call at the funeral home, you already know that it's a death call. So it's never going to be somebody calling. It might be like sometimes somebody will call and say, oh, maybe their family member is on hospice, but it's always something related to death. And then I used used to do death certificates. So I would see the cause of death for everyone. And in some cases, I had to insert it. Some cases, I did work closely with the doctors and the medical examiners to make sure that they insert it. But whatever the case may be, I would see the cause of death because even after we get the final death certificate, I would have to release it to the family. So I would always be able to see it. And I feel like between the ages of like, honestly, starting from like babies until maybe like, I would say like mid 40s at the latest. I never really seen anything later than that, even though I haven't been in the field as long as everyone else who was. But for about the 2 years that I was there, from about babies to like mid 40s, it was a lot of gun violence cases. We would definitely get like multiple a week. And you just see how it affects the families, not just like in them being sad, but it also stirs like the anger and the wanting revenge. And then it like trickles. It just becomes, and then before you know it, there's rumors, and it just becomes a lot. So I think working at the funeral home, I definitely see a lot, and that's without me even having to be in the morgue. Like, I've been in the morgue a couple times, but it's very rare because I'm not a funeral director. I'm not licensed to do that, so it might be something really quick. I might have to run in there and do something, but I haven't seen as much as they have. And some cases are very gruesome. Some cases are very like, this is insane. And then of course there's some where there's like there was an accident or maybe a mishap, but it's always unfortunate, whatever the case is.
Thanks for sharing that. It sounds like you must have been absorbing a lot of vicarious trauma every day. Did you feel like you had the support you needed through your youth programming or through Amani? How did you cope with that?
So I do think so. So I've been a part of Amani Star Development since I was very young. So I've always felt like that support was there, regardless. Like, there's always resources. There's always been like, if we needed to know about a program or anything, we could always go talk anytime, and he would like give us something. Or even Malika, she would give us anything of that nature. She's my mom, but she's still, you know. Even at the funeral home, we had resources. We would have like group meetings just to check in on mental health. We would have a therapist come and talk to us because we are still human, but we gotta kind of like separate the two and be able to put our emotions to the side to assist the families. So I feel like that was important to have that support and have like, those meetings.
That's great to hear. On a related note, Malika and Joe, can you tell us a bit about how, in your mind, this problem became so much of a crisis that you felt you needed to start dedicating your whole professional lives to trying to solve it? How did this all start for you two?
I've been doing this for a while, right? Since 2002. So what's going on now has heightened. When I originally began, we began doing it to help people transition back into society. We were doing it for families who had people that were addicts, or we were doing it for families that needed resources. And then we began to realize that the youth needed our help, and we started doing more career development because a lot of them wanted to get educated but did not come from families who could assist them in that process. So whether it was trying to get, grants for school, or even fill out the applications for school, or do a resume, simple things like that. And so we did that for a while, and then as we did more with youth, we started realizing that everybody was involved in the violent perspective of it, even if they weren't the person who did it or the person or the victim. They were a family member, they lived in the neighborhood, or something to that nature. So we just started really focusing on the youth who wanted to do arts, wanted to do art, wanted to do music, wanted to do fashion, wanted to do anything associated with art because they would express themselves that way. They may not talk to you, but they would sing, or they would rap, or they would do things like that, they would draw. And so we just kind of realized that, and so we came up with something. Even prior to naming it, it is currently named and has been for 3 years, is We You Tap, and is We Express Ourselves Through Arts program. And it's just been going very well because everybody gets to express themselves in different ways. And we deal with a lot of people, a lot of youth, young adults who have been in very, very traumatic situations.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, out of respect for all the hardworking pastors out there, I want to let y'all know I am not a pastor. I don't want that job either. So I am not a pastor. I'm a community worker. But yeah, we started initially because we saw so much violence in the community, and we said, how can we support? We actually started working with seniors and cleaning up lots. But watching the young guys in the neighborhood and the things they were going through was a lot different than when we were coming up. There was a structure to whatever was happening in the streets that was no longer there. It just seemed so much easier for guys to kill guys that lived a block away. When we was coming up, you had neighborhoods. It was neighborhood gangs. And if we're keeping it real and we're talking about the real problem, that is not the case the way it was years ago. You had a structure. You had people that could tell the young guys not to do this, not to do that. Now everybody is young, running around with guns. So I think we have an underlying culture of violence in our community that really needs to be addressed. And we saw that as the so-called OGs in the neighborhood. And we said, how do we help to change this? How do we bring resources in to support our young men to give them something different? We're actually right now in 5 schools in the northwest section of Philadelphia. Our motto is catch them before the streets catch them. So we want to put positive things in front of them before they think about picking up a gun. And they will tell you that anytime you ask them, how can we curb this gun violence, the first thing they say is there's a lot of negativity on social media that helps steer the gun violence. How can we have more positive things in our neighborhood and show more positive things on social media that we can gravitate towards that? Because the lure of the streets is real powerful. Anybody that's been in the streets or know the boots on the ground work that's happening, and the lure is real powerful for our young people. And I think that's one of the reasons we got involved, because we felt the need to support our young people and give them something more positive after seeing all of the deaths. I remember, and I think it was 2022, 562 murders. That is just outrageous. So thank God that the gun violence is down, and you got a lot of people, community organizations collaborating with the mayor and the superintendent, all of those folks, the police commissioner who's doing a fabulous job, and a lot of different organizations working together to curb violence. But I would say engaging our youth is one of the biggest pieces to fighting this thing.
Yes.
Thanks for that. On the topic of engaging youth and why we need to do that, Mensa, who you just heard from, reported this spring on a troubling trend here in Philly, which is that the percentage of the number of juvenile homicide charges increased by nearly 900% from 2016, when that was 3, to 2024, where there were 26. What are the factors that you think cause young people to acquire firearms? And any of you can take that.
The environment, people they hang around. I would say the music as well. It's definitely the music, for sure. Social media, we got into that. It's them not wanting to be their own person, but you can't really blame them because there's nothing out there for them to find themselves. You know what I'm saying? They're looking up to what's all around them. Feel me? You attract what you are. So that's my short, direct answer.
Anyone else have any thoughts on the driving factors here?
Let me make sure I understand the question again, because I was listening to Jazz. Why they're picking up guns was your question? I think it's different reasons, right? But I think one of the things that I'm always talking about is, it used to be, because I'm not thinking now, it used to be they used to pick up guns and rob each other, take each other's coats and sneakers, and it was things that they wanted. And I used to think, you know, it's materialistic things. Some children can't get it, others have it, they want to rob each other, it gets really crazy. Now I'm learning that more of the shooting is really petty and you don't even really know why it happened, but it was some type of disagreement. Something, they didn't understand conflict resolution. They didn't want to do it. They were angry. So many different reasons. So really to try to narrow down why they pick up guns, I don't know why, but I know a lot of them do for a lot of different reasons.
Can I? Yeah, what we hear from a lot of the youth we engage in the schools is safety. They do not feel safe. Some of them say they don't even feel safe on their own block. For instance, you know, one meeting we had, they were talking about if they have beef with somebody, if they live on the block with somebody that got beef with somebody else, those people are coming to get the whole block, not just that person they have beef with. So they don't even feel safe in their neighborhood. And we were just having this conversation the other day where that's one of the reasons that they will get a gun and carry a gun to protect themselves because they don't feel safe. Now, obviously, some of them get guns to do other things, but a lot of the young people are getting guns because they don't feel safe in the community, and that's something that we have to work on as the community itself to make sure that they feel safe. And the way to do that is engage them as much as you can. Be in the community. If you watch Men Who Care, we're in the rec centers, we're on the street corners, we're in the schools. As much as we can, be in the community as adults and men that they can feel safe in the community.
I have to agree with that. I hear a lot of them say, I had the gun because I was scared. I didn't feel safe. So yeah, that's one of the big things. I didn't think about
Yeah, I
that.
think that makes sense though, because even when you think about like adults who want to conceal carry, what reason do you feel like you need to conceal carry? Because you may not feel safe, or you may want to protect yourself. So they may not be old enough to be able to carry, or to be able to have, or they might be in a predicament where they can't. They might be a felon. So I feel like it's kind of the same concept. It may not be the same reasoning behind it, but essentially everybody wants to feel safe.
Let's break this down a bit more. Joe, you and I were talking about the difference between feeling the need to pick up something that may make you feel safe and then the impulse that arises to use it to harm someone. What do you think creates that tipping point?
Yeah, and I think it gets back to what the young brother was saying. You know, there's a numbness to this whole thing, and people feel like death isn't a major thing in our community. We are not showing enough anger around the murders in our community. And that's just plain and simple. If we're not showing it as adults and the youth are seeing it all the time, they get numb to it. So it's easy to kill somebody that you don't feel like their life is worth anything. So I think sometimes that's a part of it. And if you watch what's happening in the community, watch the ones that are being murdered. We have, every time it's a murder in the city of Philadelphia and we go into school, we have a conversation about that murder. And when we ask the young men or the young ladies how they felt about it, they'll shrug their shoulders, you know, even if they knew the person. Now, obviously, that's some underlying trauma that they don't want to talk about, but it's such a numb thing, like it just happens. We're not showing enough anger and frustration around what's happening in our community, and that's why it's so important to get out in the community and be upset about every time a young black man or young black lady is murdered.
I feel what you're saying with that because, as you said, they could kill somebody and not feel like that person's life is not worth anything is because they probably feel like they're not worth anything themselves. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing, like, it goes back to what we were saying. There's nothing around here for them to find themselves. It's
Unrelated.
all a box. Everything is a box.
Everything is a box.
Yeah, the engaging part, that is the most important part. The engaging. If we don't do anything else, we are constantly talking about engaging. So we really, our program is youth-led. We just guide them. They kind of do their own thing, do what they want to do. Sometimes we have a variation with the ages because we have older ones who we might feel are not old enough to use profanity or say certain things, but they want to be themselves and express themselves. So if we have poetry and they want to express themselves, I keep it 17 and up because the 12 and 13 and 14, they don't really need to hear, but I need to allow them to express themselves if they the way that they want to. But I'm always engaging with them or allowing them to engage or giving them something so that they can engage. I feel like that's super important. Akhenaten talks about engaging more than anything. So that's like a thing. Like the engaging is very, very important. And it's not easy to be able to engage. It costs to be there. It costs for them to have the things they need. It really can get, it can become a whole lot, but we always figure it out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot of presence to show and fortitude to hear these stories every day and to continue to show up for them. I wanted to ask also, you were talking about numbness and how that people don't view death as such a sad thing sometimes. On the flip side of it, how does it change when a young person shoots somebody and has that act behind them? How does it change them?
I've never shot anyone, so I can't say. But from what I would think, it's just like the first time you do something, you might be nervous. But every time you do it and you do it and you do it, eventually it's just like, oh, that's a piece of cake. So it probably gets to a point where it's just like, and then it's also like, once you dig that hole, they probably feel like they can't get back out of it. So it's like, let me just keep digging deeper instead of trying to reverse and maybe not making it so deep. So I feel like that's kind of what it is.
I've talked to people that shot someone, and sometimes they don't even realize they did it. It happened so fast. Then I've talked to people who has shot someone and didn't kill them. Because this is you have both. You have somebody shoot someone and they kill them, and then you have somebody shoot someone and they don't kill them. So the likelihood of that they may re-enter back in society is likely. Some of them change their lives, and they're usually the ones that'll tell you the story. And some of them do not, and they just continue. But when I have talked to someone who has shot people, they typically say it happens fast, I was angry, I made a mistake. And others who've changed was like, I don't know what I was thinking. I just made the wrong decision. I knew what I was doing when I did it. I just really made the wrong decision. So I can't say exactly how they feel, but that's what I've heard.
I feel like it's like a drug. It's an addiction to certain people. Like anything could be an addiction. Money, social media. I feel like because we all know. I don't know if everyone knows what type of music everyone listens to now. But the drill scene is very big in the city of Philadelphia. So you know what they talk about. I don't have to get into any of that for real. But they talk about like hurting people, harming people, feel me, with guns. And I feel like the youth feels like that's cool. And so they try it out. And certain people realize, oh no, like that's not it. Feel me, they're scared or whatever, however they feel. And other people, the other part of the youth, the other half, feels like, oh yeah, this is what I like to do. And I'm gonna keep doing it. Maybe they know better, maybe they don't. But there's always a voice in your head that's gonna tell you like, this is not it. It's just a matter of if you're gonna listen to it or not. But to tie it back together, it's an addiction for most people.
It's interesting you should say that. One of the first events that we did in Philly was a spoken word hip hop competition done in collaboration with Purple Blackwell and the Cultural Alliance that she runs, because it was an effort, as you said, to engage people where they are, which is they want to be engaged in music, they want to be making music, but they realize that what's available to them has a violent message and can result in what you're talking about. Let's talk about solutions. Ijaz,
Yes.
what do you think can convince young people to put down their guns and to change their lives?
I would say more events for them where they don't like have to pay necessarily. Like it's like a donation type of event for them to get in free. Because I don't know how most people in the city are struggling. So like I would say an event. More hours at the rec center, open later at night for them to be, for places for them to be at night instead of mobbing outside, chilling whatever they regularly would do. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's your name again? I forget. Like Mr. Joe said, he said more engagement. People outside in the youth corner, supporting them in whatever they want to do, taking them to different places, taking them out the city, showing them different things, and showing them that Philly is not just the end all, the be all, because they think this is where it started, this is where it's going to end. That's exactly what they think because of what they're showing.
Maisa, what do you think teens and young adults can tell us about solutions that adults don't already know? What services do you want or need to support your health and well-being that can lead to a safer city?
That's a good question. So I feel like, okay, I'm a fashion stylist. So
Yeah, you are. Look at her.
that's what I do. And I'm 22, if you all don't know. I'm 22, so I work with a lot of people that are my age, younger. I do work with older people, but a lot of the times the crowds are my age or younger. And I feel like one of the biggest things is confidence. Since I'm not a designer, so I don't make clothes, but I dress people. So when people need somewhere to go, I'll put your outfits together and give you something, and usually that's a confidence boost. So I feel like even when I have, like, for example, maybe I'm working with a model, and the model might be new at modeling, but when they have on something that they like, they feel a little more confident. So you can always tell when somebody likes what they have on or are confident in how they feel. And so I feel like confidence is a big thing because when you're confident, you're able to pull away and do your own thing. When you're not confident, you kind of feel like you got to stay in a pack or you kind of got to hide behind somebody else. So I feel like confidence is a big part.
Yeah, confidence is a big part. It's a really, really big part. That's why I implemented fashion into our program, because we were music, photography, art, and we didn't have fashion. So this year we put in fashion and we put in tailoring. And I feel like the confidence part is so important, even like with the young men. So a lot of the violence is with the young men, right? And a lot of them have ego and pride issues that they don't know how to deal with, right? And so their confidence is the same as with when she talks about the young ladies. But they get angry with it. Sometimes they wish they had things that they can't have that everybody else has. So I have always kind of been looking for a way to make sure they feel confident, take them places to buy the things that they want. Also teach them a little bit more about moderation though, because some of the things that they like is so expensive, right? So, and that goes on and on. But I was just piggybacking off of the confidence. That's another thing that the young men, they lack confidence. And with that, now they need to prove that they're this or that in so many different ways. So whether it's taking things that don't belong to them, showing off for girls, acting like a gangster, wanting to be the best rapper, the best dresser, just so many different things. So of course social media plays a big part now because everything is so competitive. But I do remember years ago when people were hurting each other for the Jordans, snatching each other's earrings. So it's always been a thing. Everybody has always wanted to look better, feel better, and so it's like it goes deep. It goes really deep.
Yeah, please.
I think education and resources play a big part in this, because if you're not getting the proper education, you don't have the confidence, you don't feel capable of achieving, right? So that's where the confidence is lacking. And I think, our education system in Philadelphia, and I'm keeping it 100, is failing our young people. And I think that people need to pay more attention to the education system and what our young people are not getting in these district schools. And I just got to call it out because we're in the schools every day, and that is a structural, systematic problem that we need to address to make. And in order to combat gun violence, you got to have a holistic approach, right? You educate a young child third, fourth grade, they're they're less likely to commit crimes when they get in high school. That's why our motto is catch them before the streets catch them. We're in elementary and middle school purposely. That transition from 8th grade to 9th grade is a dangerous time for our young men because they're feeling themselves and they don't know which way to turn. So we want to be there to help them navigate through that transition. EBB is one of the terms we use. Engage them where they are, build relationships, then bring resources. Because you have to have a relationship, they have to trust you in order for them to take advantage of those resources.
Thanks. I'm so glad that you have those partnerships because it's sometimes hard to get into schools. I'm going to move us along for time. We have about 3 minutes left, so I'm going to do 2 lightning round questions. Number 1, for Maisa and Ajas, what are the top 3 things police could do to improve relationships with Philly's youth? They're often the first responders at a crime scene.
There you go. Okay. So more engaging events where, first of all, not so formal. So I wouldn't say something like this. Maybe like an event where the officers come dressed down in their regular clothes. Definitely some officers who look like themselves. Maybe some younger officers. They just have like heart-to-heart conversations. Maybe break some things down. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that would be a nice part. And then also just both parties just looking at each other as people. Like everybody's still human. Everybody still has a family to go back to. Everybody still has emotions. So I feel like both parties' guards are up in a lot of cases. And so we both come in, they both go into it with like the guard up, and then that doesn't help any.
I would say, also just to add on to what she's saying, I would say knowing that an officer has a brother and a sister as well, the same way you do. Mother, father, same way you do. Just like she said, we are people at the end of the day. And I feel like we should just, I guess, build a relationship and learn. It would be nice to learn how they see life and how they see us. It would be nice to see their point of view of how we act in the city of Philadelphia. That would be cool too. I want to see what they see on a daily basis instead of what we see, because we only see what we see and they only see from their point of view and their perspective.
So humanity is important, is what I'm hearing from the 2 of you. Lastly, what does a truly safe Philadelphia look like to you and your peers? And what do all of the adults in this room need to know in order for your vision to become reality?
One thing, I ain't gonna go down the whole line, but I would say more lighting in the city areas.
Or public spaces, you mean?
Yeah, more public spaces. Yes, I would say that.
Good answer.
I think, okay, so this is one of my parents, so I'm a younger child. So I can say sometimes parents need to have more conversations with their children, and not necessarily a conversation where it's like a yelling match, like an actual conversation. Even if you agree to disagree, sometimes that's still healthy. Sometimes you still need to see where they are mentally, and maybe we are able to see where our parents are mentally. So I think that helps, because it starts at home, I feel like. A lot of times it starts at home and at school, because your children are at school more than they're with you. So it's important to just, like he said about the school district, I feel like we need to work on that. And then maybe, even like with the encounters with the police, just remembering like a lot of these youth are lost. They don't, even if you stop to have a conversation with them, they might break down and cry because they don't have anyone at home to talk to them. So maybe for a second, if you see them doing something they don't have no business, be like, yo, you know you're not supposed to be doing that. And they might just look at you. Versus if you come at them, you know, and then everybody's guard is up. So I feel like that'd be helpful.
More check-ins. I would say more check-ins with the youth instead of just chastising them when a tragedy unfolds. You feel me? Because everybody been through something. You never know what that child been through, their traumatic experiences. You don't really know for real, so you can't just blame them. You feel me? You can't just say, oh, you're doing that. That's over for you as a rap. We actually talk to them and explain to them why this is right and why that is wrong. And ask them how they feeling today, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Ask them about themselves and ask them, what do they like? What do you want to do in life? How do you feel today?
Yeah, stop assuming.
That is a perfect note to end on. You just heard them talking about important, open, direct communication about the hard things, and they just modeled that for you. Thank you so much for your time and your openness. I know we all benefited from hearing directly from the four of you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Thank you, guys.